Vocus to restructure enterprise and wholesale arms. Vocus has announced that it will be separating its wholesale and enterprise arms as part of what it called its accelerated transformation program. As a result, Vocus will now have 4 operating segments: enterprise and government, wholesale and international, consumer, and New Zealand. In a statement to the Australian Securities Exchange, ASX, Vocus CEO Geoff Horth said the restructure follows its $861 million Australian dollars acquisition of Nextgen Networks in July 2016, which opened new markets and presented significant growth opportunities. The opportunities available in Vocus' domestic wholesale business, combined with our investment in the Australia-Singapore cable, warrants the creation of a dedicated wholesale and international division and will ensure that we have the focus, products, and service proposition to be the provider of choice to customers in this important market, Horth said. The current CEO of Enterprise and Wholesale, Michael Simmons, will run the Wholesale and International division. The current CEO of Consumer, Scott Carter, will now lead the Enterprise and Government arm, and Sandra De Castro will run Vocus Australia's consumer portfolio. According to Horth, De Castro will bring digital transformation and innovation expertise from her previous strategy and marketing roles at AGL and the National Australia Bank, NAB. She will help to drive the next phase of growth and customer centricity in our consumer division, he added. Vocus also announced its intention to release interim results on February 20, though this will be in its current structure of 3 divisions. The company had in October announced its decision to sell off the New Zealand arm of its business, with a proposed completion date by the end of FY18. The board has now determined that the Vocus New Zealand (VNZ) business will be prepared for sale, finalizing appointment of advisors, Vocus said at the time. The board has also progressed its review of the non-core Australian assets, advisors appointed to the sale of the Australian data centre assets, and other non-core Australian assets will continue to be evaluated with regard to potential divestment or closure. Despite selling its stake in Macquarie Telecom for $41 million Australian dollars in March last year, Vocus full-year results for FY17 saw a turnaround in its FY16 net profit of $64.1 million Australian dollars to a net loss of $1.5 billion Australian dollars due to higher than forecast net finance costs and a higher effective tax rate, along with what Horth called a more competitive business environment in both Australia and New Zealand. Underlying net profit was $152.3 million Australian dollars. While underlying earnings before interest, tax, depreciation, and amortization, EBITDA, not including significant items during the year, was $366.4 million Australian dollars, up 70%. Revenue grew by 119% year-on-year to $1.8 billion Australian dollars, and the company's net debt increased by 35% to $1.03 billion Australian dollars and is expected to climb even higher, to up to $1.06 billion Australian dollars for FY18. Last year, law firms Slater and Gordon announced that Vocus would be facing a potential class action from its shareholders over having downgraded its financial guidance in May. According to Slater and Gordon, the proposed class action alleges that Vocus engaged in misleading and deceptive conduct because it had no reasonable grounds for the original FY17 guidance issued in November 2016, and that the telco breached its obligations of continuous disclosure by failing to disclose that it would not achieve the FY17 guidance. Vocus' original guidance had relied on assumptions without proper visibility of profitability made about growing the business through its $1.2 billion Australian dollars acquisition of Amcom in June 2015, its Nextgen acquisition, and its merger with M2 in February 2016 to form the third largest telecommunications provider in New Zealand and the fourth largest in Australia, worth more than $3 billion Australian dollars, Slater and Gordon said. Vocus' revised guidance saw forecast revenue reduced by $100 million Australian dollars, underlying EBITDA reduced by between $65 million Australian dollars and $75 million Australian dollars, and net profit reduced by between $45 million Australian dollars and $50 million Australian dollars. As a result of its downgraded guidance, The company in June received a takeover proposal from Kohlberg Kravis Roberts and Co. KKR, to acquire 100% of its shares at a price of $3.50 per share via a scheme of arrangement, with Vocus then allowing KKR to conduct due diligence to explore whether a binding transaction could be agreed upon. Shortly afterwards, Affinity Equity Partners submitted a takeover proposal in July to acquire 100% of Vocus for the same amount. However, 2 days before Vocus was due to announce its FY17 full-year financial results, both takeover proposals were terminated. Vocus is set to begin laying the Australia-Singapore cable, ASC, next month. Kogan.com in a brilliant position for NBN. Ruslan Kogan having never undertaken a large fixed-line infrastructure spend, Ruslan Kogan says his company is in a better position than most to offer incredibly attractive services, especially with NBN currently focused on repairing customer experience issues. Best of CES 2018 for Business, ZDNet and Tech Republic journalists weigh in from connected mannequins to connected mattresses, from Hyperloop tubes to roll-up TVs. Our journalists scoured CES for the products that matter for professionals and businesses. Telstra CEO, 2018 will be big for 5G. The rollout of commercial 5G networks could begin in 2019 if standardization and technologies are set during 2018, Telstra CEO Andy Penn has said, adding that Telstra is a world leader in the space. Mobile device computing policy. Mobile devices offer convenience and flexibility for the modern workforce, but they also bring associated risks and support issues. This policy establishes guidelines to help ensure safe and productive mobility. CES 2018, Telstra NB-IoT Network. Now Live. Telstra has used CES 2018 to announce the launch of its NB-IoT network across all capital and major regions.